Gurudeva Goda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadaliye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vanchakopa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Bhakya Vihina Parada Lakshai Shitashta Kamarita Rangamaji Kripa Mai Tvam Saranam Prapana Vrindi Numaste Charanara Vrindam. First, I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, and also to the lotus feet of my divine Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj. And I'd like to thank all the devotees who put this together, Yasodananda and Prabhu, Yasodadari, and all the other devotees. And I know we have to make it quick, and I'll probably come on one Sunday and speak more. But actually, I first came in contact with Srila Gurudeva back in 1978. I had gone to Vrindavan. It was the anniversary, the first anniversary of Prabhupada's PureBhakti.Tv in Krishna Balaram Temple. So that was my first impression of Srila Gurudeva. I went with some of my godbrothers, and we were pretty well known around ISKCON, one devotee, Vikreshwar Pandit and Shastivar. And we traveled all over to the different places in India. And we gave kirtan, we did kirtan everywhere. And pretty much it was like putting on a performance because we were known as, kirtaniyas. I was a mridanga player, and the older devotees, they remember these things. So we went to Bombay, to Mayapur, to different places, and pretty much it was ecstatic kirtans. Well, we went in Krishna Balaram Temple, and those devotees that remember Vikreshwar Pandit and the kirtans that he did years ago, it was like at such a high level. But then Gurudev came in, and the first thing I heard from his mouth was Radharani Ki Jai, Maharani Ki Jai. He was on a megaphone. And when he came in, the kirtan went like to a whole nother level. So all of my impressions about Gurudev, I don't remember one word he said speaking about Prabhupada. But the first impression was how great and how much he loved kirtan. Because Gurudev was there playing wampas, and I was right next to him playing the mridanga, and I was jumping and spinning and running around, and Gurudev was just laughing incredibly. And so that impression was there with me for years. And whenever Gurudev, so many times he came to New York, and I never went, but I always had a good feeling because I was such an ass. I work. So in maybe 1998 or so, I have to give thanks to some of the GBC because they came to the temple and they insisted why we shouldn't go see Gurudev. So I was always been kind of rebellious. So as I sat there, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to go see him. I'm going to go because it must be something there. So I didn't go right away. And in 2000, I had a stroke. So I was forced not to go to work so much. So after that, they said, Srila Narayana Maharaj is coming. And one of my godbrothers had given me a book a few years earlier, Going Beyond Vaikuntha. And some of my godbrothers, my friends I've known since we were younger before we joined. I joined at the age of 16. One of my godbrothers, Sanatan Goswami Das Prabhu, his brother Shambhu was 15, and we joined at a very young age, along with one devotee, Shankar Pandit, and his brother, who has passed on, Raghanandana Prabhu. So after reading that book, I was so excited because I used to play Srila Gurudev, Srila Krishnadas Babaji Kirtan tapes, cooking in the temple in 55th Street, cooking in the temple in Brooklyn. We would play all the Gaudiya Math Kirtan tapes. So after I was sick, I was fortunate enough to get a chance to go to Alachua in 2000 and meet with Gurudev. So when he saw me, he said, what is your name? And I told him Bhumi Pati, and before I could get Das out of my mouth, he said, no, Das. And Gurudev said, no, Bhumi Pati's not like this. He took his finger. He said, Bhumi Pati's like this, like this. So I had an opportunity on so many different occasions to meet with Gurudev and speak with him privately. Once Gurudev had done a festival in upstate New York. And when he came back, he went to Vishnu Prabhu, who was living in New Jersey. And so we sat there the whole day, and they invited us. They told us to come in because me and Sahadev were sitting outside. It wasn't a lot of room. So when Gurudev, I had just finished driving Gurudev. I had a big van, custom van. I had driven him up to the program in upstate New York. I think that was 2001, like that. So when Gurudev came out, he said, they were going to put Gurudev in the car and take him. And Gurudev pointed, he said, no, I will go with him. So he came and sat down in the van with me. And I was really, really nervous. I didn't know what to say. I was like, so Gurudev got in, and everyone who's met with Gurudev, you know, Gurudev has an accent. But when Gurudev sat down and talked to me, he didn't have any accent. It's like we were sitting on the stoop somewhere in Brooklyn, just kicking it. And Gurudev just looked over at me. He said, so what do you think? How was my classes? And my mind was completely blown. It was like my head came off and the smoke was coming out of my ears. So I just started talking, and I was reading Bhakti-Tattva Vivek. So I started explaining what I understood on page 2 and 3 of Bhakti-Tattva Vivek, how misconception is our greatest enemy. And I was explaining, and Gurudev was just smiling from ear to ear. He just couldn't stop smiling. And he put up his hand and he benedicted me. So he said, I want that you should always be like this. So I told him, Srila Narayana Maharaj, I don't know Sanskrit and all of these things. I just understand some of the conceptions that you and Srila Prabhupada give in the Vaishnavas. He said, this is most important. Don't worry for this. You don't have time for that. Just understand. So it helped me over the years, because also when I met with Gurudev once, we were in Houston and Gurudev called, what are you doing? And for years, we'll go back even further. Once Gurudev called on me in Houston, I think it was 2003 or 2004. And for whatever reason, I was in class that day, and I don't know why I was so tired. So, you know, if you're sitting in class with Gurudev, you don't want to nod out or anything. So I'm pinching myself, trying to stay awake, you know. And earlier that day, I've been telling everyone about Dhenu Kashura. I really love Krishna Samhita by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I'm explaining Dhenu Kashura represents gross intelligence and all of the different things. So Gurudev called on me to speak about Agasura. And my mind froze. So as I got up and walked to the front, it was like I was walking the plank. So when I got in the front, I said, Gurudev must be in a comedic mood today because he's called up a clown. And all the devotees laughed, so it helped me to relax. And then Prem Prayojan was sitting in the front, so he helped me go through it. So afterwards, I spoke with Gurudev. I mentioned to Gurudev, I said, Gurudev, there's one verse, Madhya Lila, chapter 25, text 265. Krishna consciousness means understanding Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Bhava Tattva, Prema Tattva, and Lila Tattva. I said, Gurudev, I don't know Lila Tattva so well. I said, in fact, I don't know any Tattva so well. Gurudev gave me my service right there. He said, it's okay, but whatever you do know, you should help others. So back then, I had started a phone conference, and I've been doing this conference for like the past 18 years or so. And we started off doing it one night, then we did it 3 nights. Now we do it 5 nights, Monday through Friday. Even I was in the hospital once in intensive care, but the inspiration of Gurudev, I still did the conference in the hospital. So it brings me to this point where Gurudev is explaining so many things, and I've heard devotees speak on so many wonderful tattvas, and our aim and objective is to understand that our ultimate goal is Raj Bhakti or Radha Dasyam. But in actuality, for a lot of the younger devotees and newer devotees, you also have to get some substance, the basic foundation. So Indulekha was explaining about these 4 foundation verses that Srila Gurudev spoke about. I was in Barshana in 2001, and Gurudev was explaining these 4 foundation verses. Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegam, Yovisha Heta Dira, Sarvam Apimam Pritivim Sasishyat. This is the first verse he gave. Then he gave Anyabilasita Sunyam, Jnana Kamari Anavritam, Anakulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakta Uttama. Then Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarodapi Sahishnuna, Amani Namanadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. Then Tate Nukampam Susamikshmano, Bhujana Evat Makrita Vipakam, Ridva Vapubir Vidadam Namaste, Jive Tiyomukti Pade Sadaiva. So this is the foundation. And one other thing I want to mention, how much more time do I have?
You're good for time. You still got about 10 minutes.
Good. So
Oh, wow.
these are some of the points that were stressed. So also as well, going back to my days reading like Nectar Devotion and different books, in the preface of Nectar Devotion, our Srila Prabhupada mentions every service has an attractive feature which drives the servitor progressively on and on. And the impetus for this service is the pleasure we derive from it. So it's natural. The nature of the jiva or the living entity is that he also has this propensity to love and be loved or to have some enjoyment. Our difficulty or our problem is how we go about doing it. So one of the concomitant factors of the jiva is attachment. So I would actually suggest to all the devotees on the line, there's one purport and one verse from 3rd Canto, chapter 25, text 20, where it explains that this attachment is natural for the jiva because it's part of his makeup. So we're going to be attached to something. So I was thinking in terms of, we explained in one verse in Bhagavad Gita, we're actually studying Bhagavad Gita on the phone conference. There's one explanation why contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. From attachment, lust arises. When lust can't be satisfied, anger develops. From anger comes bewilderment of memory, then the intelligence is lost, then one falls down into the material pool. But in the same way, this is from the material point of view, but from the spiritual point of view, that same type of attachment can also be utilized for developing our bhakti. How? If we contemplate the association of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, and we develop that attachment, we take it from material to spiritual. Then by contemplating the objects of the senses like that, the association of Gurudev. What does association mean? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, in the 11th Anga of Bhakti, Srila Gurudev explains that attachment, association implies attachment. So whatever we're attached to, this is what we're associating with. So by that type of association with Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, this gives us the opportunity from that attachment, then that lust. It's not lust then. It develops into love. And from that love, then comes what? Bewilderment of memory. So most of us have actually gone, and our memories have been bewildered because we're so absorbed in worshiping our Gurudev. Who is he? Actually, Gurudev mentions the backbone of bhakti is Guru Nishta. So by that mind becoming completely absorbed in Gurudev, it doesn't require intelligence, because when we go to the higher planes of bhakti, Ruchi Ashakti Bhav, the intelligence is not working. Then ultimately we'll actually come to that platform of obtaining what they call madness in the material world is actually prema in the spiritual world. So this is another angle of vision of understanding these things from the material or the spiritual platform. So it's imperative that a lot of the younger devotees, especially Gurudev, once we were on a walk in Alachua, and I remember he said, devotees were talking about so many different levels of bhakti and bhav bhakti and raganuga bhakti. And Gurudev asked, there's 9 processes of bhakti. He said, does anyone know all the 9 processes and who represents the 9 processes? No one could answer. I think the only one there that really knew, and Gurudev didn't let Prem Prayoja or Madhava Maharaj speak. No one knew it. No one knew it. But these things, Gurudev said, it's very, very important to know this. So if you look in 7th Canto, chapter 5, text 23 and 24, our Srila Prabhupada is describing it. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani Vedanam. So as well, our aim and objective is to obtain Radha Dasyam, but it's not so easy. You have to put in the work. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking to Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami mentioned to him, what's more important? What's more prominent? Kripa, mercy, or the endeavor, sadhana? What did Mahaprabhu explain to him? He said, both are important. So we all know, we've all obtained the mercy of our Guru Varga and Srila Gurudev. Am I right or wrong? Shake some heads. Yes, no? Okay. So now it's our opportunity to do our part. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj mentioned, when we come to the process of bhakti, when we get initiated, we're just starting. Initiate means when you just initiate something or you just begin. So now we have to put in the work. We have to put in the work. We have to boil the milk. We have to cook it down. So devotees here who know that have made different milk sweets. I used to cook in Radha Govinda Mandir when we were at 55th Street. I used to make the burfi. So you put the milk in, and the more it cooks down, the more attentive you have to be. You have to be very, very attentive, especially when you put the sugar in. Then if you're not attentive, it will scorch and you'll burn it. So right now, we're all in the process of developing the higher levels of bhakti. So we really have to be attentive to boil the milk and cook it down. So yes, we want to preach and we want to do all these things. But one last story I'll tell. Once I was sitting with Gurudev, we were in Barshana, and I was walking. This was about 2001 or 2 in Barshana. And I saw Gurudev just sitting out by himself where he was staying, and Madhava Maharaj came out. So I went over to Gurudev. And I was sitting there with him, me and my daughter, so he talked to us. So at one point, I was involved with one devotee, Uddhava, for a Vraj restoration program. So Gurudev looked at me and I said, yes, Gurudev, I'll get the money. And Gurudev looked at me, and the look was like, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that. And Gurudev chastised me severely. He said, Krishna doesn't need your money. Who do you think you are? And I said, Gurudev, I'm sorry, I apologize. He said, and he just went on for a minute, but then he stopped and he said, look, there were so many people in ISKCON and they gave so much money, but where are they now? And he emphasized this point. He said, yes, you can give something, but don't neglect your bhajan. He said, your bhajan is everything. No money in the world can compensate you. So I know there are a lot of younger devotees, and I'm also still in the point where I'm working, I fix computers and do stuff, but we cannot neglect our bhajan, especially once Gurudev gave a lecture. He said, you should be chanting 64 rounds. He said, if you can't do that, you should do 48. If you can't do that, you should do 32. If you can't do that, you should do 25. And if you can't do 25, you should find any ocean like Pacific or Atlantic Ocean and jump in. So we have to think in terms of increasing our bhajan, increasing our Harinam, increasing the association of advanced devotees. There's one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 71, Srila Prabhupada mentions if a devotee on the intermediate platform doesn't advance himself by associating with first-class devotees, he makes no progress. So we have to remember these things, that we have to seek the association with more advanced devotees in order to enrich and enthuse ourselves. So And I have like 3 minutes.
So let me introduce.
I'll tell this last story.
Let me say one more thing. So Mahabhagwat, book Bhagwat, you want to hold on to that and don't let go of that so we can learn more from it. Go ahead.
When Gurudeva actually gave Indaleka, he gave her Harinam and Diksha at the same time. And I was sitting in the room and I'm sitting there. So Gurudeva is describing the Gayatri mantra. So he didn't give her Brahma Gayatri. So I'm listening and he starts looking at me. He says, so do you understand? Then when he got to Guru mantra and Guru Gayatri, he started explaining everything. And he explained to me, your guru's like this. She wears this. This is her color. This is her age, telling me all these things. He went through each of the mantras and explained it all to me. And I was completely floored. So a few years afterwards, I had one dream. And in my dream, I would have these dreams of Srila Prabhupada a lot. And Prabhupada would be walking away from me and I would be chasing him. And I would wake up crying. But this time I had the dream. And Prabhupada asked me, what was I doing? So I told him, I'm taking shiksha from Srila Narayana Maharaj. Prabhupada's eyes got like Jagannath's eyes. They were gigantic in the dream. So he said, you've made me so happy. Oh, I'm so happy you're doing this. So then Prabhupada started describing the Gayatri mantra to me. And I woke up crying and Induleka, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? And I'm saying, Prabhupada, come back, come back. So these are some of the things that assured me that I was on the right path. In Alachua in 2002, Srila Gurudeva was sitting on the Vyasasan. Now I had been in Prabhupada's classes many times and saw Srila Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasasan. So while we're singing bhajans, I'm there in Alachua. I think we were at Jalakar's house and I'm sitting there and I look up on the Vyasasan. Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasan. I know the difference between Prabhupada and Gurudev. And when I looked, it was like a flash. And I jumped. And when I jumped, I didn't want to make a commotion, but in my heart, it said, Guru is one and he comes in infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others, from Prabhupada's address in 1936. And right then and there, I understood that I was doing the right thing. So I encourage all the devotees to continue on. And I really am thankful that you all gave me an opportunity to share just a small bit. So I had told Yasodananda, and I'll come on maybe one Sunday as well. I have so many other things I would like to share with the devotees. But thank you so much. Vanchakopa Trubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
I just want to sing one thing. Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe.
Dandavats. All I can say is wow. Your stories, your knowledge, your tattva is wow, just wow. Thank you so much, Didi Prabhu, for sharing your beautiful
I see all my old friends. Actually, today I saw Raghunath was on from UK. I used to be in the Philly Temple in 1974 with Raghunath. I got to get his number and get in touch with him. I got to talk to him.
Yeah, I can send it to you, actually. I can send it.
Yeah, you text it to me because you texted me earlier.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Haribol, thank you so much for that. That was so beautiful.